Okay, guys, so um, after today's class, hopefully you have a little better idea of what I'm looking for with your assignment. Um, because today's assignment is going to be like yesterday's assignment, where um, you're going to try and find me something, only this time you're going to look at how color is used instead of how line is used. So let me read through what I say in my syllabus. I say find an image or video that makes use of color and examine how color is used in the image. Um, Look also for what effects the colors create. Write down your analysis in a 300 or more word response. Make sure to ground your analysis directly in what McLeod is saying. You can cite or refer to passages from the text directly for support. Um, and then be prepared to present what you found to the class. So what I'm looking for is um, I want you to do the same analysis you did with line, with color. Find, um, it doesn't have to be a music video for the examples I'm going to show you. I used music videos just because that's what we're going to be uh, right, doing our first speech on. But yours can be an advertisement, it can be a television commercial, it can be a print advertisement, it can be a painting, it can be a photograph. It really can be any image that is using color. It could be a movie. It's up to you. Um, in terms of the McLeod, there's a lot in the chapter about the economics of color printing and things like that. Don't worry if you don't fully understand that. That's not as much my concern as the artistic qualities of color and how it's interpreted and how it conveys meaning. So focus more on what he's saying about color as art. Although I think the stuff about its connection to commerce is interesting. Don't worry if that doesn't make as much sense. So let me walk you through two examples. And these are kind of interesting because I actually found two examples that both use the color yellow but use it radically different. So the first one is Johnny Cash's cover of the song Hurt. Hurt is a song that was originally by a band called Nine Inch Nails. But the song is probably most well known for Cash's version of it, and I put a link to the video in the little notes section below this one. So why don't you watch that quickly and then come back and I'll talk about it. Okay, so yeah, it's pretty intense, but it's a great video. So let me talk about what I notice, and particularly what I notice about color in that video. Obviously, the predominant color in there is yellow. Yellow saturates or kind of soaks into everything in that video. And the only other kind of predominant color in there, I would say, is black. So a little bit of context that might give this video some more meaning is Cash released this cover, and this video was released about a half a year before he died. And you'll notice that yellow, it's a very rich, it's a very deep yellow. It's the kind of yellow you might see in a sunset. So to me, that yellow seems like a very sunny yellow, but the kind of dark, rich yellow you get when the sun is going down. And I think that richness or that kind of darkish yellow is kind of connecting to the message that Cash is going to die soon, is that this is kind of the sunset of his life. This is one of the last songs he would release on the last album he would release. And you'll notice too the black, the yellow kind of seems to predominate mostly in the middle of the picture, and the black is kind of at the edges. So the yellow is on Cash's face, but then you'll notice he's wearing an all black suit, and you'll notice the black is kind of on the edges of everything. And I think that might represent kind of the way that death is kind of framing this video, the way that blackness kind of frames everything in some ways. And another thing you'll notice is that um, in the scenes where it's flashing back to uh, clips from Johnny Cash's past, from documentaries, from movies that he was in, you notice that the colors there are very washed out. They're very quiet. Um, they're very muted. It's almost like the colors themselves are kind of about to die out or to fade out. And again, I think that connects to the fact that this is kind of Cash's goodbye to the world. And then also, um, I think Cash is showing that the era that he lived in, and that is also fading out, is dying out. Um, and you'll notice even further that towards the end they start throwing in clips that are just black and white, that don't have any color, and those clips become more frequent towards the end of the video. And in fact, the last clip they show before the very end, with Cash closing the cover on the keyboard, is black and white. And I think that um, as the video goes on and these black and white clips come up more and more, I think that also signifies that the color is about to leave, that the light is about to die out with, with Cash. And so serious stuff, but very good, very brilliant in its use of color to convey a message. All right, so next up, we'll do a video that's also a little bit sad, but maybe a little bit uplifting too. It's by a guy named Leon Bridges. And I put a link below there too. This link is to the video, and then it has just a very, very short article about him that might be worth reading to give you some context, and I'll give you some too. So why don't you take a sec and watch that, and then come back. Okay, so these are always awkward because, of course, I'm not watching the video, so it's weird to kind of pause and talk again, but whatever. To give this video a little context, you'll notice that there's kind of two contrasting colors in this one. You'll notice these kind of soft yellows in unlike the Cash video where it looks like a light is coming from the outside into the room that he's in. In these videos, it looks like the light is coming from inside the rooms, right? The light comes from lamps. Sometimes the walls are painted very light or yellow colors, and then this kind of very soft yellow seems to really predominate. But then that's contrasted when you look outside. It's very it's blue and gray, and then you'll notice on the televisions too, it's usually very bluish. And I think it's contrasting these two colors. And you'll notice there's a lot of clips on the TV. Those clips are from riots that happened in Baltimore. Those riots were the result of the death of Freddie Gray. Freddie Gray was an African American. He was arrested by 6 police officers who thought that he had a switchblade. Switchblade is a type of knife that's illegal in the United States. And when they arrested him, many of the witnesses felt that they were unnecessarily rough with him. And the officers arrested Gray, and they put him in the back of a van and drove him to the police station. Somewhere between when they put him in the van and when he went to the police station, his back was broken and his spine was actually severed, and he died a few days later. And the police released statements about it, but the problem was the statements were inconsistent and they didn't match up to facts that reporters and people in the community could find. And so when Gray died in the hospital a few days later, the community was obviously pretty upset about the matter. And there had already been some tension between the community and the police. The community had already been struggling with violence, both inside the community and then police violence towards the community. And so it kind of erupted in riots. And eventually they went on for a couple days. And then the National Guard was called and kind of order was restored. But that's what's playing on the televisions, and that's kind of what's going on in the background of the video. And so I think what's happening is that the yellow in this video, um, I think the yellow is symbolizing kind of the strength of the human spirit, or the human soul. And you'll notice that in a lot of the interior scenes, um, there's two people who are um, intimate with each other in some way. You know, maybe not physically, but there's a father and a son and a mother. There's Gray and the woman who, you know, even if they're not romantically involved, they clearly share some kind of comfort with each other. So that this yellow represents human connection. It represents kind of um, kind of this human spirit. And that's contrasted with the kind of blues and grays of the outside. And I think that's meant to represent maybe the indifference of the world, a world that is sometimes violent, a world where the violence sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense, a world where things aren't always fair, right? Um, and if you listen to the lyrics, Bridges himself is Christian, and the lyrics are about him kind of finding solace in his Christianity. And so I think the light too can represent um, kind of faith, can represent salvation, can represent kind of the grace of God in this case. Um, and then that's contrasted, of course, by maybe the indifference of humanity, or the indifference of the world. And so, yeah, I think it's another powerful use of color in a video. So I hope those examples were interesting and enlightening. No pun intended. So go find your own. Get me something interesting and be ready to talk about it in class. All right, I'm excited to see what you come up with. Good luck.